This is Irma Lauter, Chair of the Hingham Board of Selectmen, and with me today is Ted Alexiades, and this is On the Issues. And today we'll cover a few topics, starting with probably the most talked about issue in town, the middle school turf field. We'll talk about real estate issues. We'll talk about the wonderful news about the middle school and several other exciting initiatives we have going. So let's start off, and Ted can help me. Ted and I will give you an update on where we stand with the middle school turf field. And I'm going to read a little bit just so I don't get this wrong. On August 12th, the advisory committee met, and they act as a proxy for town meeting as well as our finance committee that they help guide the town. Ted's always been he was my right arm when I was chair of the advisory committee. He still is very actively working with them, and they help guide the town. They also keep us honest, to be very honest with you. So they took, with the issue of the middle school, they took 2 straw polls. No votes were taken, just like at the Board of Selectmen meeting, we took no votes because there was nothing to vote on yet. So let me share with you the first straw vote. And it was 10-2. The majority of the advisory committee recommended that the school building committee seek town meeting approval prior to making a final decision on the turf field. The second vote, where they acted as the finance committee, by a straw vote of 10-1, recommended the school building committee consider developing a detailed project proposal prior to making a final decision, and this proposal would be available for consideration by town meeting. In addition, there are now going to be 2 additional meetings, and I would really urge everybody who is interested in this topic to either attend the meeting or watch the reruns on TV or watch it live on TV. I have to assume both of these will be televised. On August 20th, the school committee will take up the topic of the turf field at the middle school. And on September 3rd, the school building committee will opine on it and probably take a vote of some type. So please stay plugged in. We want the town's input to this, and we're all looking forward to all of the details that are coming out. And now I'll turn it over to Ted. Anything on this?
Well, I think it's worthwhile having a little bit of a general conversation about why the school building committee is looking at this. I know the Board of Selectmen's taken it up a couple times now, and the board has been pretty unanimous in its support for the turf concept. Selectman Healy had asked for cost estimates according to his idea that we get that full-blown view of what the entire cost of the project is. Advisory has sort of adopted this, and so I think now we sort of have a framework in place that says, let's see what this is going to cost. The building committee has the legal jurisdiction to make this call as per town council. We haven't gotten a formal opinion, but in our conversations with him, that's what he had felt was the case. And so now people can start to decide whether they look at the business decision or the process decision. And I know that sometimes process is the one that we say, oh, don't let us not do something because of process. Process is really important. You never want to be on the wrong side of process if it's not your issue. You don't feel comfortable like that. If you want something and the process didn't go in a way that was fair for you, then you're likely to feel disaffected. And so I always tell people, try to remember, you could be on either side of an issue as time goes on. One of the strengths the town has always had, and this goes back decades now, is a fairness to the process to make sure that we make the right decision. I often tell people, take a look at the seal. Town of Hingham was created a long, long time ago, and generally speaking, for almost every issue we deal with, a 1-year time period is usually not going to be the end of the world for things. That building was built with a design for it to be here for 50 years. So I think we can pause for a second to make sure we get it right. It's likely that the costs are within the budgets they have, but it'd be nice to verify that. That's, I remember a phrase that you used a lot with me, right? Trust but verify.
Yeah.
So I think the school building committee probably had a good sense that they had the money for this, and the price was consistent with where the numbers were coming in. From a standpoint of fiscal management of operations, it's clear turf is better than grass. It's clear for two areas. One, foot traffic. You don't have to rest a turf field like you have to rest a grass field.
Which we don't do.
Which we don't, because we just can't, because we have too many activities. And I know sometimes that in itself is hard for people to see, because the level of sports activities for kids growing up now is nothing like what it used to be when I was growing up. And
Well, and there was nothing. Are you kidding? I came from the dark ages. There was absolutely nothing.
And you know, there's a reason for that. Because as parents now, we knew what happened to the kids who didn't have anything to do after school and how you got into trouble and other issues. Now parents want to fill up their children's time with activities that are healthy, and athletics truly helps deal with our obesity issues as a society. So it's a positive environment, and I'll quote Tom Hoffman and many others who've said this before, it's the outdoor classroom. So there's a lot of synergy there. We can have the same on grass, but we just can't do it for as many people. And so we wind up pushing people out of the programs because we just don't have enough spots.
I see a bright side in all of this, that we are having an open discussion on this, and that we're also concentrating on what is the total cost of ownership here. And the other thing, I'm so glad, and I thank Tim Collins, the entire building committee, who if I try and name them, I will forget somebody, so I won't, for what they've done. And also this investigation into the turf field has turned up that the ball field that was proposed was Pony League, and some of us still thought Pony League was around, but that is a ball field that couldn't be used had it been built. So they're looking at redoing that to make it a more usable ball field.
A lot of really positives have come out of this. I know some people were looking at this originally and being a little disaffected by the sudden conversation, but I think we've had a really good, robust conversation about turf versus grass. And I think the community's come to grips with turf is better than grass. A strong majority of people have. But I think you mentioned the building committee, and they deserve a lot of credit here. This is the second building committee in a row. First it was the East School, and now this, that have come in substantially under budget. That's not easy to do on municipal projects. And so they deserve a lot of credit, even having the position to have the conversation.
Yep. So everybody, it's your turn. You want to be involved, go to those meetings, make your wishes known, and we will listen to you. So we'll see where this one goes. Now, let's stay on the middle school.
Sure.
The good news is, on August 20th at 3 o'clock, there will be a ribbon cutting for the school. We are very excited about this. The educational opportunities in the school, it is big, it is beautiful, but the technology that has been built in there and the educational opportunities for the different classrooms and the different specific topics that the kids will be studying is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So I hope everyone will take an opportunity to either come to the ribbon cutting or come on a tour sometime and see it. It's something to behold.
It's quite an accomplishment. Like I said, the committee deserves a lot of credit for the hard work they've done, and another seamless project under budget.
And I don't think we did this publicly, but I want to thank Dot Gallo and John Ferris for running a yard sale that can only be thought of as extraordinary. I did get to go, but my other half was with me, forbidding me to buy anything, and there was an oak desk I really wish I'd bought. Phenomenal what they did. It turned up a little bit of money, but in the spirit of recycling that Hingham is very much married to, people walked off very happy. And maybe a second career for Dot and John Ferris. Who knows? Who knew?
That's right. Who knew?
So how about let's switch topics to real estate issues, and I will ask you for what's up?
Well, I think the thing that I get asked the most about is Hingham Mutual.
Me too.
I usually can't walk down the street without someone asking me about what's up with that building. So we submitted, the Town of Hingham submitted a proposal, bid per se, to Hingham Mutual. They had a described deadline of July 22nd, and they are evaluating. I understand they have several proposals. Our proposal, along with several proposals from commercial residential developers, either condominiums or rental apartments. All of those would require substantial zoning changes and would likely be either 40B type developments or, like I said, require substantial zoning changes. They've indicated that they'll come back to us within about a month and let us know what they've decided. So we wait and anxiously wait to hear from them.
And as everybody who deals in real estate, especially high-end commercial developments, knows, it's a journey. And it's not a journey, it's a journey that sets its own timetable. So we will hurry up and wait.
Correct. A little patience is in order.
I have no patience.
As we know, we have a 40B that was went through the permitting stage on Main Street, and that's now moving through the appeal process. We have dialogues. We've had a couple of executive sessions on dialogues with Boston Golf, and looking at some opportunities there. And so overall, I think the main focus is Hingham Mutual right now.
And just so everyone understands, should we not get the bid for Hingham Mutual, we still need space for the growing senior center. We need more space for recreation. Our police department needs more space. There are other options we have, so we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket.
Correct. I mean, I think it's worthwhile maybe to let people know because it's been a year now. We were prepared to go to town meeting last year with the beginning of some development at the front end of Bear Cove Park that would allow us to transition the recreation department into a facility in Bear Cove Park, allowing the senior center to expand a little bit more within its confines. But those are going to be expensive and difficult pieces to move around. Hingham Mutual provided, we think, a better opportunity for that. But again, you need two parties for an agreement. So.
While we're on real estate, let's talk about some really positive stuff at the harbor.
Sure.
And why don't I start off with Foss?
Okay.
We have one step forward in the journey to get an appropriate memorial for Seaman Herbert L. Foss. And again, I'm going to read this one so I don't screw it up. On August 8th, the governor signed House Bill 4232, an act providing for the preservation of a memorial to landing ship tanks in the town of Hingham. This was sponsored by both Representative Bradley and Senator Headland. So if anyone sees either of them, give them a huge thank you, because this is super. Section 4 of that particular bill says, and I quote, "The Massachusetts Department of Transportation shall dedicate the intermodal center located at the Hingham Shipyard in honor of Congressional Medal of Honor recipient Herbert L. Foss. The department shall erect and maintain suitable markers bearing that designation in compliance with department regulations." Now, the really exciting thing is if you drive through the shipyard, you'll notice construction. So it's really going to happen. There are quite a bit of construction underway for the intermodal center, and it is supposed to be done November of 2015, which happens to coincide. November is the birth date of Seaman Foss, so we're very much looking forward to that. Again, it's a step in the right direction.
Great work by both Bob and Garrett, and fitting that we recognize Mr. Seaman Foss's heroic contributions to the country. What a wonderful site and what a wonderful building for it to be for him. And we still have some work to do on the waterfront in that area, and we'll certainly take a look at that. But that's really exciting news.
Very much. We're all absolutely thrilled. Why don't we continue to talk about the harbor and some of the things that are happening there that people can watch for in the coming months?
Well, we are diligently working on the permitting for the bridge as funding's in place and all the agreements we have in place. I think construction is going to be targeted for next spring in that area. And within the next month, we hope to have an RFP out on the street for a rowing and sailing center, whether that includes also educational components, etc. But we're really going to be asking the public for their ideas on what they like to propose down there through this process. And we do expect to see at least a couple companies coming in and bidding for the use of this wharf to produce the excellent programs that both Lincoln Sailing does, and of course the rowing programs that are there.
And the basis for the RFP the RFP is the result of a study that was funded about 1.5 years ago by DJ McKinnon looking at what potential maritime activities would people like to see at the harbor. So we're very excited about that as well.
So as we go into this, and I know that people have had a lot of different focal points on this, we control a piece of real estate. It's known as Barnes Wharf. It includes the wharf and some land in front of it. And what we're going to do is put it out to the general public to say, here's a piece of land. These are the uses we'd like to see there. And we're going to list them out. And what would you propose in exchange for a long-term financial commitment from the town of allocation of that real estate? So the town's financial commitment would be foregoing the use of that property for something else in exchange for someone else coming in and erecting a structure, stabilizing the wharf if needed, to produce the programs the town wants. We will also likely be asking town meeting in the spring for the permission for the Board of Selectmen to issue a long-term lease. If we had the proposal by town meeting, that would be nice. But we're also looking for the selectmen to be able to work with interested parties as they move forward. So we're looking for town meeting to give them that approval.
In all of these, the warrant article always authorizes but does not require. And we would be looking for a long-term lease because this would be a substantial amount of money that we would be asking private parties to invest, something in the order of up to 30 years. And there is a lot of precedent set for this.
Yeah, so this is not so common in the East Coast, primarily because we can only use our water for a short period of time because of the winter.
Unless you're a frostbite sailor.
But you know, on the West Coast of our country, all up and down that coast, certainly in California, which I'm very familiar with, they have extensive piers that move out into the ocean. And what the municipalities do is they turn around and lease the space. Sometimes they don't even give them the pier. They just lease where the pier is going to be. And a company comes in and builds a pier, and then with all their own dollars, erects restaurants or entertainment or anything else like that. The municipality gets the revenue back in form of taxes and services to the community. And so we're looking at something along that concept. It's going to be a multi-party deal. The town's contribution is the land, and no one is going to give us $3, $4, $5 million to fix the pier or erect a structure on a facility without a long-term commitment behind it, because we'll eventually own all the leasehold improvements that are on the land. So I think it's a quid pro quo, so to speak, but we got to walk the public through that and make sure that everybody gets what they're looking for.
Two other pieces that are happening tomorrow night at the Board of Selectmen's meeting. We're having a discussion and really an explanation of parking along the harbor. Yes. There's an awful lot of different pieces, and it goes from, there's no parking at the Lobster Pot, but that's kind of where it starts, all the way through to Barnes 2. And there's different bylaws, and there's different groups that manage the parking. We've had a lot of questions over the last, I would say, 2 months, probably because it's summer and everybody's down there. Because it is beautiful, hands down.
Well, we've always had a lot of questions about it, but we're getting more, and we shouldn't be surprised about that.
But it's a good thing. We want people to go down there.
Well, we've been driving people to the waterfront now for the last several years, and so the more activity you create, the more questions you're going to create. And so now people are asking questions about, this parking lot and that parking lot. We have one local resident who wants to charge people who don't live in Hingham a different amount than the people who do live in Hingham. These are very common type questions. And so what we're going to try to do is on Tuesday, we have our real estate council available to us, and we're going to walk through who owns what piece of the property, because a lot of people think the town of Hingham owns everything, but the town of Hingham owns it with several different deeds from different folks, and each property has a specific list of criteria. I'm going to explain that and talk to people about how you change those things if you're so desirous to. So give people a roadmap on how to deal with some of these things.
And one last thing with the harbor, the geese. There was another spraying done, and they did disappear again. Ted has made the suggestion, and I think it's a great one, and hopefully we can deliver on his suggestion, that perhaps we bite the bullet and put money in the budget next year that will allow us to do spraying, especially for June, July, and August, which are the heaviest use of the area that the town owns, the Victory and the Trustees area, and just that whole green space around the gazebo. So we are looking into it, and I have to thank John Thomas, who never gave up on ways of solving our geese problem.
You know, this is a problem that screams out for regional effort.
It
you know,
does.
my recommendation to you that we use the spraying on this targeted area is that it's our only area of waterfront. You know, Hingham is a waterfront community, but not like, you know, Los Angeles with miles and miles and miles and miles of sandy beaches. And so, you know, this is where people congregate, and it's a small, focused section that we can spray at a reasonable cost and give people utility of that section during this small period of time. In terms of the wildlife implications of that, you know, Hingham, if you watch it from the air, has a lot of very large green spaces, and the spraying is probably just pushing them on to one of those other ones, which, and I'm probably going to get myself into trouble because someone's not going to like that, but during those first couple months of summer, those very precious 2 months of summer, I think some of those other areas could handle that a little bit better than the waterfront, where we're trying to push people because that's where they want to go.
And we have acres and acres and acres in Bear Cove Park.
Correct. But there are some programs that talk about reducing the geese population across the region.
And we'll be looking at those too.
A very, very difficult, and quite honestly, it's a man-made problem. We've created this. We've created the habitat for them, and there's no pressure. There's no more hunting. You know, 50, 60 years ago, hunting for geese was much more appropriate, part of society. We've moved away from that. We don't have to gather our food anymore. Whole Foods has it, and Stop and Shop has it right there for us.
Probably not a good idea. We start that up again at the harbor.
But what happens, though, is that what it's done is if you take away your predators and you create good habitat, then you've just created this, you know, boom. And what the folks that we spoke to, that are specialists in this area, have told us is that New England has created an environment, they don't migrate anymore. They just stay here year-round.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of techniques to reduce the population that are softer. And so I think we got to think about that. But for Hingham to do it alone is really somewhat useless, because when you look at the map of all the other surrounding communities, it's got to be a regional effort.
And I think that also is a perfect opportunity maybe for Plymouth County to step up.
Correct.
And do something, because there's an awful lot of other cities and towns that are on the water that belong to Plymouth County. So we'll see where that takes us.
Yes, yes.
And in the coming weeks, when we do other sessions, Ted and I will be joined with two people that I'm lining up. The first will probably be Bob Curley, who is chair of our CPC and also the Historical Commission. But we're going to be asking him to come in, talk a little bit about CPC, and also about the schedule for the CPC projects, people that want projects and want to seek funding from the CPC. It's a very fixed schedule, and there's always way more worthy projects than we have money. But we've tried to get the word out this cycle much earlier, so that people will find out if their project qualifies earlier. And then we can spend much more time concentrating on the ones that are vying for the money. And then I've invited Hans van der Luft, who is the chair of the Historic Districts Commission, to come in and talk about the commission and how he sees them help preserve our historic nature of the town. Because we're very lucky here. I grew up in an area that, not quibbling about St. Augustine, which is a little older, but we won't quibble about that, did not have anywhere near the historic structures that we're so lucky to have here. So watch for that coming up, and the two of us will bring a guest along. Okay, so I think we'll see you all in about a week or so. Have a great end to summer. It doesn't seem possible it's happening, but enjoy the last days.